All right, we've all heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And these are the 5 worst things you can do if you're diabetic or someone controlling their blood sugar for breakfast. And also, I'll throw in some good ones too. All right, everybody, welcome back to Life Revived. Today, we're going to talk about the 5 worst things that you can do for breakfast as a diabetic or someone who is trying to control your blood sugars with insulin resistance or whatever the reason might be. I'm also going to give you a couple of the good things and the good replacements you can look at finding these different things. But I want you to start paying attention to what these things are, how often you're having them. And you might find that, wow, I'm doing these things every day. No wonder I'm having problem with my blood sugars. Okay, so this comes off of, there's so much information out there nowadays and everyone has their opinion. And of course I have mine, and I've been working with diabetics, insulin resistance for over a decade. And I've had the pleasure of helping so many people actually reverse their disease, see those blood sugars improve, see that A1C resume, see them get off those medications. And a lot of this comes down to understanding and knowing what we're doing differently. And so my goal in these things is to help you understand more and understand what these effects are on you. We're all different. We're all individuals. And, there's so much information out there. I want to make sure that you guys have the right stuff. So do me a favor, hit subscribe, hit that bell, right? If you know anyone who's a diabetic, make sure to share this out, right? I mean, I tell you guys all the time, I'm here to put this as much good information out there as possible. The more you share, the more you subscribe, the better it helps this channel, the more people I can help. So let's dive in. I already mentioned that there's so much terrible advice out there in terms of what to do as a diabetic, what to eat, how you should eat, when you should eat, all those types of things. And, a lot of the media and a lot of the, associations like the American Diabetic Association and your doctor will tell us one way to do things. Unfortunately, their goal is not always for you to get better. Okay. And it's not their fault necessarily or directly, but the comment that I always used to make sense is please do not follow some of these things blindly. Don't follow the things I give you blindly. We're going to test. I'm going to talk about that in a minute here, but I want you to see how this affects you. And one thing that I say is I'm going to share recipes and things with you. I already have. If you haven't looked at some of the older things, maybe I'll put them down below. But a lot of the most common information out there from the media and the American Diabetic Association are designed to manage your disease. It's not meant to improve it. I always used to say, that's a diet for diabetics. So if you want to continue to be a diabetic, continue to follow that diet. Okay. So here's a couple things you can do and make sure to avoid for breakfast. All right. So let me backtrack. Sorry about that. I talked about checking and testing if this is right for you. Okay. And so best way to do this is you can check your blood sugar before you eat something, okay? And then you can check it another 30 minutes after, 60 minutes after, 90 minutes after. And therefore, because I'm going to talk about some of my favorite things, but ultimately some of these things might not be best for you. And the only way to know that is if you're checking, okay? I always say, don't guess, test. So check your blood sugar before you eat it, check it 30 minutes after for sure. And then you can always do a 60-minute and a 90-minute after and see how these things affect you. And it's a way where if you don't believe that these things are bad, check them too. That's the best way to understand is to say, hey, let's look, see what's exactly right for you. So the number one best thing you can have, in my opinion, in the morning is eggs, right? They're kind of this perfect little combination of proteins and fats, and if you get like the more natural ones, the ones that are pasture raised and those types of things, that is ideal because they're going to have the most amino acids and fatty acids. And ultimately why eggs are so great is because they carry a lot of essential nutrients. And I'll talk about with some of these other things on here, but essential nutrients that our body does not have the ability to make. Okay. So therefore we have to consume them. An egg has a lot of those, and the more natural you get them, the better they are for you. And so one thing I do tell people too is there's so many different levels of eggs now. And unless you're getting the organic pasture raised one, don't worry about all the others, right? Because that's the main thing is you want it to be pasture raised and organic, but there's a lot of gray area in between and a lot of they use language to kind of deceive us a little bit where cage free is great, but they could still be in a warehouse, but not in a cage, and they can say it's cage free. Don't pay extra for the vegetarian diets or anything like that. We want real chickens that are eating real bugs out in the fields, those types of things. If you're not buying those, it doesn't really matter which other one you buy. So number one good thing, eggs. And make sure it's the whole egg, okay, guys? Not just the whites, not just the yolks, the whole thing. The number one bad thing, oatmeal, right? I mean, here's the thing. Oatmeal is loved across the board, and it is by far one of the most things asked by my clients is, can I have oatmeal? And I hate to say no all the time, but I tell them no. Oatmeal does not have any benefit as someone who's trying to control blood sugars as a diabetic to eat right away in the morning. Ultimately, oats are a grain, okay? They're a carb, and all carbs break down to glucose and fructose, right? Sugar. So don't eat that oatmeal in the morning. It's not very good for you. There's no vitamins. There's no minerals. And have you ever eaten oatmeal with just nothing in it? No. You're going to end up adding some fruit. You're going to end up adding maple syrup. You're going to end up adding other sugar, which is going to amplify that effect on your blood sugars. Okay. Number two, good thing that I really like, avocado. Right? If you need to eat something else, this is a great thing. I love avocados. They've got great fats in them. They've got great fibers, and a lot of the different beneficial vitamins and things that we need. There's not a ton of flavor with them, so some salt, some pepper. It's a nice way to start the breakfast. And especially against when we kind of compare it to the number two worst thing that I don't like, banana specifically, but just like a whole bowl of fruit, right? There's your sugar again. I mean, bananas have some great things that a lot of people like. Well, I need my potassium. I need all these other things, and there's just as much potassium in other things without all the extra added sugar, right? And so people think they're doing a good job when they eat a bowl of fruit, and it's better than a lot of other things out there, but ultimately all you're doing is you're just consuming a whole bowl of sugar. It's going to mess up your blood sugars. It's going to mess up your insulin levels. It's going to make it harder to keep those lower throughout the day. Okay. Number three, the bad, so sorry, I'm looking at my notes here, but number three is the bad thing. I'll start with the bad thing, and I can clump a couple of these in there. And it's maybe a deviation off of the oatmeal, but there's granola, right? There's cereal, and I mean, I could spend a whole 5 minutes on cereal. But ultimately, another thing that I've seen out there that people think they're doing better is muesli or muesli, or there's so many different ways to say it. But ultimately, these are just fancy carbs again, right? And I'll leave cereal out of this one, but like a granola or a muesli, they're just grains. Right? And ultimately, like I said, if you don't believe me, if you think you're doing a better job, test your blood sugar before you eat these things. Test it 30 minutes after, 60 minutes after, 90, and watch what happens to your blood sugars. And when you start making some of these changes too, watch what your energy levels do, right? So instead of that granola, instead of that cereal, instead of that muesli, do something like a protein. How many people love steak and eggs, right? I mean, it sounds so luxurious, but it's like, wake up, and if you have to have that breakfast, have some steak, have some chicken, have some, pork sausages that don't have any of those fillers in there. That's a much better way to get some of those good amino acids. That's a much better way to get some of the other essential vitamins and minerals that we need without that blood sugar spike, without that insulin spike. Okay. Number three, worst thing, breads, pastries, English muffins, bagels. I'm beating up the carbs here, guys, but you might be seeing a pattern, but same kind of thing. Don't give yourself that big sugar rush. Don't give yourself that big ingestion of carbs right away in the morning. It's just going to create problems for you down the way. Replace that with, a different side of protein, but I love bacon. And this is something where bacon's kind of been controversial over the years. And I'm definitely one that says, if you're going to do bacon, right, you don't have to worry about some of the fats. You don't have to worry about some of those things if you're getting a quality product, right? So my goal when I eat bacon, I love my bacon, uncured, right, nitrate-free bacon, right? It's got those good fatty acids, the good amino acids, and I even keep all those good fats to cook in later down the road. But you get a good bacon instead of those breads, those types of things. Number five, bad things is kind of start out with is basically like a juice or a smoothie. Okay. And when I say juice, I mean, of course, the store-bought stuff, which is from concentrates, usually adding a ton of sugars and things like that. But I know a lot of people that have been trying to be good And what they're doing is they're going out and they're juicing their own vegetables. They're juicing their own fruits. They're doing those types of things. And I just tell my people, like, stop doing that, right? Because like, but then I can get my whole serving of vegetables and fruits in one glass. Like I get 2 apples and a pear and a banana, and then I throw, all my spinach and celery and all that sort of stuff in there, and you get this huge thing of fruits and vegetables gone into one glass. But here's the problem. Think about this. Would you ever sit down in one sitting and eat all of that stuff at once? No, right? Because you'd be so full and you just wouldn't do it. But I mean, and so there's the benefit there. The reason you would get so full typically is because you're getting the fibers, you're getting the substance from those fruits and vegetables that when you juice that, you're extracting all that benefit, right? And those fibers and those different things are what actually help your body slow the use of some of the sugar. That now when you juice that, it's just going right into liquid form. It's being absorbed right away, and it is skyrocketing those blood sugars right there in the morning. I could argue if you're juicing and you're like, man, I just can't give that up, do a smoothie, blend it all together, because at least then you're still getting some of that. But be careful with those juice and smoothies right away in the morning. They're going to spike those blood sugars. Okay. The benefit where you can kind of do that, and this is another loaded one for me, where I say like a good yogurt, right? Yogurt's another very popular thing. You have to be careful because there still can be a lot of sugar in yogurts, and dairy is inflammatory for the majority of our population. And so I would say if you can do like a good non-dairy, low sugar, and potentially organic yogurt, awesome, right? Make sure you're checking that label though and seeing what they're all adding to those. And again, with these things, do your testing, right? If you don't have a meter, right, I'm going to put a link in here where you can pick up one of my favorites, where as you go down the road, it even will allow you to test your blood sugars. And I'm going to give you some other ways that I look at things in terms of, okay, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. However, here's a challenging thought, right? Our bodies are designed to get through the first half of the day without food. Okay. We have some pretty nice luxuries nowadays, as well, refrigerators and being able to go to the store pretty quickly. But we evolved as human beings where we would have to wake up and we would have to say, hey, honey, what's for dinner? But instead of going to the fridge and looking what's in there, we're going to have to say, hey, I wonder what's around. What can I forage for? What can I hunt? So our bodies are designed to wake up and go and get that food. And we have hormones that help us do that. And so as soon as we eat in the morning, we drop those hormones. We kind of challenge the way that we've evolved into that. And especially when we add in the fruit, the bad things that I'm talking about here. So my challenge is to start saying, do you have to have breakfast right away? Okay. If you watch my videos, you know I'm a fan of different types of fasting, but knowing what type of fasting is best for you, you got to test, right? But I'm also going to put some free guides down below that you can check out as well. So think about what that breakfast means to you, how you can start changing it up. Some of the worst things out there, I don't like oatmeal. I don't like just fruit in the morning. I don't necessarily like the different breads and pastries and things like that. I don't like the granolas, the cereals, and I don't like just straight juices or smoothies, right? Some of the things that I do like, eggs, avocado, right? Things like a nice quality bacon or different proteins, steaks, that sort of thing. And then, smoked salmon, great, right? And then a potentially good yogurt, preferably non-dairy or organic. Make sure you're paying attention to the rest of those. But I'm here for you guys. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you start paying attention to what you're doing. If you take anything out of this, you're like, okay, I already do that. Test, make sure these are right for you, right? And then share this information, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. Check out, if you need a meter, I got a link for you down below. But more importantly, I'm here to share. I'm here to help. I want you to be happy. I want you to be healthy. And check out the next video up above, and I'll see you out there.